You know, sometimes in our business we get confronted with situations that are not ideal for doing interviews. Today I want to talk about an example of this and showcase how you can make something that looks like it's not going to work at all still give you satisfactory results. My name is Timothy Reese, and I've worked in the television, film, and photography world as a director of photography and a photographer for nearly 20 years. Check out my videos as we cover not only the how, but also the why of various technical and creative techniques used in the creation of real images. Now, this interview setup isn't going to win any awards or anything, but it's definitely one step above putting someone against a white wall. I want to show you how you can get something that is of high enough quality that will keep your clients happy in these tough situations. You'll often see really nice looking interview setups on people's demo reels and here on YouTube, which I have plenty of on my own reel. However, rarely do people post a tough situation like the following, where creative skills and experience can help to create usable results. How many times have you found yourself in a tiny little conference room like the one seen in this photo? Now, don't let this wide angle photo fool you. This was the super wide lens setting on my iPhone in order to even get the whole room in the shot. You can tell just from the cart of equipment that I have in the room how much space I actually had to work with, and to make things worse, we were in a hospital, so this cart could not be stored anywhere else but only inside the room we were shooting in. I had only myself and slightly under an hour before our first interviewee was set to arrive. When you're in a situation like this, you have to look at what you have to work with and what you can and can't control to make the best of the situation. What I did see was a little bit of a cutout to the wall, so there was a little bit of shape in the back corner there and a decent looking brown cabinet. So we start by clearing the whole room, or at least moving everything we can out of the way, and then breaking down the cart and equipment and getting it all tucked away into a corner as best we can with a setup like this in such a small room. Here's a quick pro tip. The first thing I try to do whenever possible is to set the camera shot before I begin my lighting. Since the lighting can often take the longest amount of time during a setup, you want to make sure that you like your frame and that it has been approved by your producer. At the end of the day, due to the limited amount of space and time that we had to set this interview up, I chose to only use 3 lighting instruments. The first was a light matte spectrum. Overkill for what we were doing, but this was the tool I had available. I set it at an angle so that the light would spill but not overpower our background. I used a white card for a fill source, a small light panel boomed over the plants in the background, and a light panel 1x1 for a kicker. Thankfully, there were blinds in the room that I was able to fully close, and you can see I used a C-stand pushed up against one corner of them so that there was no light spill coming out from behind the blinds. Now look, I know putting plants in the background is a dead giveaway of a low-budget art direction, but it's also a good quick fix when you need something to give your image visual interest, and thankfully there was a small office nearby that we were able to raid for some choices. Another trick to make this interview decent was the use of a 50mm prime lens set to f1.6. This helped to create a softer background even though we had a limited amount of space within the room. Nothing helps out a dull background more than throwing it out of focus. Due to the wide stop, we were lighting with extremely small light levels. I believe the main key light was set at 5%. This did double duty as well, since it was also less imposing to the talent. I found the overall look acceptable given the amount of time we had and the limited options in terms of our setup location. Depending upon the subject matter, I could have gone much more dramatic and much darker in that small space by adding a control grid to the key light, which would have taken the background down a lot more, and I could have increased the contrast ratio on the subject's face. However, due to the conversation topic, a darker mood would have been inappropriate. You know, often we have a desire to create contrasty, slick-looking images, but we always have to keep in mind the subject matter of the material we're shooting so that our creative choices enhance the storytelling and don't contrast against it or distract from it. If you like these videos, please subscribe and feel free to leave a comment about a future video you might want me to make. This user feedback really helps me see what users are looking for and ensures I can continue to make helpful and educational videos. Until next time, thanks for watching.